who is this for? That's a question that reviewers like to ask when they don't like a product. Who is this for? It's about demographics. It's about marketing. You see, when you're creating something, you want to have a market for it. You know, a certain group of people who actually want the item. And that leads me to talking about this. I bet you thought I was going to talk about L5R. Don't worry. I'm getting there. Just follow me for a little bit. So, I've been marketed to aggressively on social media. This guy right here. And I have to say, I am not at all excited about this game because I am not its demographic. Now, I won't be talking about what this game's mechanics are like, what this game is, really about. Just looking at it, understanding who it's for, and why it doesn't appeal to me. So this game is a superhero, like a Super Sentai Power Rangers kind of RPG, where I guess you do super transformations, you jump in a giant robot, you battle things. I would initially love this kind of thing. But when I look at this, I don't see that. I simply see the word queers. Let me just say that I don't have a problem with there being queer RPGs or LGBT plus RPGs. I think that it's good to have them around. But when I see a game marketed to a certain sexuality, I immediately think that this has to do with romance. And I'm not big on romance in my RPGs. I like a lot of action. I like a lot of mystery. I like a lot of puzzle solving. Now, this game may have all of those aspects in spades, but when I see something called queers, I'm thinking that we've got to, peacock and strut our stuff and find ourselves that perfect mate, all while trying to save the world. You could name this game Romance in Space and have a giant robot on the cover, and I wouldn't buy it because the first word there is romance. And I'm not saying that romance is a bad genre. I'm just saying that I'm not into it. And what this does, what the point I'm trying to make here is that this game limits its audience. Now take Dungeons & Dragons. It has a huge audience because you can insert into it whatever game style you want. Romance, horror, mystery, action, saving the world on a global scale to just saving your family from, crushing debt. You can do anything in Dungeons & Dragons. In queers, you're a superhero and you're LGBT. That's all I see. And like I said, I haven't cracked this book at all. I have no idea what's inside of it. I'm just looking at the marketing. So Dungeons & Dragons can be anything. It usually is anything. It has been EverQuest. It has been World of Warcraft. It has been all of these other games. It has even been L5R at one point in time. And now it's going to be L5R again. Edge Studios has announced they're creating Adventures in Rokugan, Dungeons & Dragons 5e rule set in the land of Legend of the Five Rings. Now, if you're a fan of Legend of the Five Rings, you're already rolling your eyes. You're already like, oh, this again? Because like I said, Legend of the Five Rings has already used the Dungeons & Dragons rule set back in 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons with this very unfortunate title. During this time, when they printed supplementary books, they would have rule sets in both the Legend of the Five Rings rules and Oriental Adventures. This was made in an attempt to expand the audience. You see, a lot of people out there, they only play Dungeons & Dragons. In fact, I have friends who will not play another system but D&D because they don't want to learn another system. It takes an amount of energy and time to play these games. And if you only have a certain amount of time to play, you're going to probably devote yourself to one thing. And since Dungeons & Dragons is the most popular, that's the one everybody's going to gravitate towards. So how do you get your product to expand its fan base? Well, you hop on board. And this has worked to some success with Monty Cook Games, who have transferred Numenera over to Dungeons & Dragons 5e. They have their giant city world, Tulis, and printed it in both Dungeons & Dragons 5e and their original system, the Cypher system. They're making sure that their product is accessible to everyone. So why are fans upset about Adventures in Rokugan? Well, the rules in the original L5R game are tailor-made for Rokugan. You have your honor system, your glory. The rings and the elements bring a certain amount of flavor. It actually changes how your character acts. It's like speaking in another language. You think in that language. Changing the rules to Dungeons & Dragons 5e feels like a dilution of the world, especially when you have a tiered level system where you can see far in the future where you want to go, rather than a skill-based system that feels like your character is growing more organically. There's also another hidden fear, and that is that the Dungeons & Dragons rules might become more popular than the actual L5R rules, and it eclipses it. That has an even greater chance of happening because of how complicated the current rule system is. The D&D rules might be a breath of fresh air for their simplicity. I think these fears are unfounded. I feel that the original rules bring an extra level to gameplay. I think people will feel like they deserve to have an original and a more authentic experience. But I caution everyone that people who like Adventures of Rokugan should not be disparaged. We should not gatekeep L5R from anyone, but instead welcome in our brothers and sisters, and hopefully expand their experiences, because we all know you should never stop gaining experience. See you later, guys.